The Simpsons have done it again. For years, people have been drawing similarities between gags in the episodes and things that actually end up happening in real life.
34 predictions, global outbreaks, and exact historical events all broadcast on television years, sometimes decades, before they happened in real life.
Oh, it's Kobe Bryant!
Help me.
Is it terrifying foresight, or just the mathematical law of averages? Today, we're putting the Simpsons under the microscope to see if they are geniuses or part of a bigger conspiracy.
My baby translator. Lavish attention on me and entertain me.
Maggie, you talked.
You see? It tells you exactly what's on the baby's mind.
In the episode, Them, Robot, Mr. Burns replaces his entire power plant workforce with robots, and delivers a line about it that feels eerily current. At the time, robots doing skilled human jobs seemed like pure comedy. Not anymore. Robots and AI are genuinely replacing people across restaurants, warehouses, agriculture, and customer service right now. Exactly the shift the episode mocked decades before it became a serious economic conversation. Watching that episode back today, it's less funny and a lot more like a documentary that arrived a few decades early. Third War Warning.
It's World War III! Quick, down to the fallout shelter. The bombs are dropping!
One episode has Homer gripped by fear that a third world war is about to break out, prepping his family obsessively for it. In that episode, the war never actually comes. Just Homer's spiraling anxiety, played for laughs. But in another, separate episode, a war does break out, and Homer's the only survivor left standing, alone amid the wreckage of everything he knew. No date given for either one, nothing pinned to a real year. With global tensions where they are right now, these two episodes sit a lot less comfortably than they might have a decade ago. Nobody's saying it's coming, but it's not exactly relaxing viewing either. Cry Decoder.
My baby translator. Lavish attention on me and entertain me.
Maggie, you talked.
You see? It tells you exactly what's on the baby's mind.
Season 3, Episode 3, 1992. Homer's brother invents a genuinely clever device that lets parents understand exactly what their baby's different cries actually mean, translating tears into needs in real time. At the time, this was pure gadget comedy, the kind of daft invention Homer's brother always cooks up. Today, real companies are building AI-powered baby monitors that do precisely this, analyzing a baby's cries to identify what they need. The tech only properly arrived in the last few years. The cartoon had the concept locked down 3 decades earlier. The viral outbreak.
The dreaded Osaka flu has hit Springfield with over 300 cases now reported.
An episode from 1993 shows a flu outbreak sweeping through Springfield after arriving inside an infected package shipped in from Japan. It spreads fast, making the entire town sick within days, chaos and panic setting in almost immediately. The symptoms shown on screen are eerily close to what the world would later experience with COVID-19, a virus arriving from overseas and spreading before anyone could properly contain it, nearly 30 years before it actually happened. Was it warning us, or just an unusually specific coincidence? You decide. The Billionaire President. The same episode, Bart to the Future, shows the country in an economic crisis caused by the previous president, a billionaire businessman named, quite plainly, Donald Trump. In 2000, that idea was played purely for laughs. 2 decades later, Trump didn't just become president once, he did it twice, non-consecutively, inflation getting worse in between. And there's more in another episode. A calendar behind Homer shows 2016, 2020, and 2024, specifically highlighted the exact years he'd run. Different writers, different decades, all circling back to the same man. Whether it's foresight or coincidence, it's a properly mental one either way. The wrong final. A breather from the politics. For years, people have circulated a screenshot from the 1997 episode The Cartridge Family, where Springfield hosts a match between Mexico and Portugal to decide the greatest nation on Earth. Every 4 years, this resurfaces, claiming it predicted a real World Cup final. It went massive again this year, with the 2026 tournament hosted across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Thousands convinced Mexico and Portugal were destined to meet in the final. Didn't happen. Portugal made a decent run but never reached the final, nor did Mexico. The real final, played July 19th at MetLife Stadium, saw Spain edge Argentina 1-0 after extra time. Ferran Torres scoring deep into added time, ending Messi's likely last World Cup in heartbreak. 1997 clip never even mentions a World Cup, or 2026 proof. Not every viral claim holds up. The full. Sticking with Trump, because there's a short clip doing the rounds that's making people properly nervous. After the purple suit, the calendar, and the presidency itself all landed so precisely, it's hard not to raise an eyebrow at this one too. I won't spell out exactly what it shows. It's the kind of thing you need to see and decide for yourself. What I will say is plenty of people online aren't laughing this one off as easily as they might have a few years back. Whether it happens, and when, that's the question everyone's quietly asking. Glowing orb.
We're looking into a picture going around online this month. It claims to show a screenshot of a 2002 episode of The Simpsons that eerily mirrors real-life events. It shows Donald Trump touching a glowing orb with two Middle Eastern-looking men. Well, last month, President Trump did just that with the King of Saudi Arabia and the President of Egypt. So, did The Simpsons really predict the future?
Not everything viral is true, and this one's a proper case study. You've probably seen it. A supposed 2002 episode showing Trump with his hand on a glowing orb next to leaders from Saudi Arabia and Egypt. In 2017, Trump did exactly that in real life. Spooky, right? Except the 2002 episode never existed in that form. The clip was made after the 2017 event, as a joke referencing news that had already happened, not predicting it, a myth. But a good reminder for every real prediction on this list, there's a fake one dressed up to look just as convincing. Rapture.
The world will end next week!
Homer, what turned you from sad drunk to mad monk?
Funny story, Kent.
It's the end of the world! God loves you! He's gonna kill you!
Season 34. Ned Flanders is in his basement, surrounded by prepper supplies, ready to use his rapture supplies. After a film about the end times and a stunt plane crash he mistakes for a sign, Homer becomes convinced the apocalypse is imminent. He calculates the exact time, 3:15 p.m., 18th of May. Half of Springfield joins him on a mesa. Nothing happens. He finds his error. Recalculates 3:15 p.m. that same afternoon. Nobody believes him twice, leaving him alone. And then, it actually happens. Homer ascends to heaven alone, discovers the apocalypse really is unfolding, confronts God, and begs him to undo it. God agrees. Properly unsettling, dressed up as a joke.
Well, we have 30 seconds left. Any other cuckoo yip yap?
Oh, here's one. Revelation 6:13. Just before the rapture, the stars will fall to the earth.
Provision. Season 28. Friends and Family. Mr. Burns hires a simulated family for his mansion and forces the whole town to strap on a chunky, futuristic headset just to interact with them. People wander round completely absorbed, bumping into lampposts, gesturing at thin air. February 2024. Apple releases the Vision Pro, and the internet floods with real people wearing the thing through crosswalks and on the subway, waving their hands around like nobody else can see them. Put the cartoon next to the real footage and you'd struggle to tell which is which. Nobody writing that episode knew what a Vision Pro was, but they nailed the image of a society wandering blind, screen strapped to its face, years before Apple made it real. Crown's Countdown. When Queen Elizabeth passed in September 2022, a clip went viral showing an animated scene with the exact date of her death on screen, sparking claims the show had known decades in advance. It wasn't real. The original episodes never contained that date. The clip had been edited after her passing, purely to rack up views. But here's the eerie bit, there is a genuine example. A related segment, Legends of Chamberlain Heights, aired in 2016, bears a striking resemblance to how Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter crash in 2020. One fake, one genuinely unsettling.
Oh, it's Kobe Bryant!
Help me!
Just pass me the trophies and we'll pull you out!
Resurrected Empire.
Soviet Union will be pleased to offer amnesty to your wayward vassal.
The Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
Properly dark territory now. Back in 1998, Simpson Tide sees Homer accidentally fire a submarine captain into Russian waters. In response, a secretly preserved Soviet Union re-emerges, rolls tanks through the streets, and rebuilds the Berlin Wall overnight. Written purely as satire, a daft "what if the Cold War never ended" gag. But when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, this clip resurfaced everywhere, viewers drawing direct comparisons between the fictional resurrected empire and the real devastating aggression since. Nobody's claiming the writers knew what would happen, but the pattern they satirized has proven uncomfortably relevant. Cypress Hill Prophecy. Back in 1996, Cypress Hill turned up in Springfield and ended up booking the London Symphony Orchestra for a gig, played entirely as a punchline. A stoner rap group sharing a stage with one of the most prestigious orchestras on the planet. Nonsense, surely.
Somebody ordered the London Symphony Orchestra, possibly while high. Cypress Hill, I'm looking in your direction.
Hey man, did we order an orchestra? What's up with this orchestra, man? Where'd the orchestra come from?
I don't know, man.
They didn't tell me about this, man. We gotta do something. Oh yeah, we think we did. Do you know Insane in the Brain?
We mostly know classical, but we could give it a shot.
This I like.
Except in July 2024, it actually happened. Cypress Hill teamed up with the real LSO for a genuine performance at the Royal Albert Hall, 28 years after the cartoon made the exact same pairing as a joke. Fans clocked it instantly, and the comparison clips went properly viral.
Come on. Hey. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane.
A gentle way to start, but a strange one all the same. Random guesses don't usually land with that much precision. Purple suit.
The Simpsons have done it again. For years, people have been drawing similarities between gags in the episodes and things that actually end up happening in real life. One of the biggest happened to be when they predicted Donald Trump would become president. Well, now fans are drawing similarities from last week's inauguration. Look at this.
Year 2000, Bart to the future. Lisa Simpson becomes president. In her Oval Office scenes, she's dressed in a distinct purple suit, paired with pearls and matching pearl earrings. Odd, specific styling for a cartoon that could have dressed her in anything. July 2024, when Biden stepped aside for Kamala Harris, the internet exploded. The outfit Harris wore at her 2021 inaugural address, bright purple suit, pearl necklace, matching earrings, was an almost exact match, drawn 24 years earlier. 3 specific details, all lining up with a real photo taken decades later. Not the kind of thing you brush off easily.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke? How can that be?
Fox takeover. A proper classic. In the 1998 episode When You Dish Upon a Star, there's a brief shot of the 20th Century Fox studio entrance. The fine print underneath reads that the studio is a division of Disney, at the time purely a throwaway gag. Then in 2019, it stopped being a joke. Disney bought 20th Century Fox in a deal worth over $70 billion, making that sign from 21 years earlier suddenly uncomfortably accurate. No dramatic reveal at the time, just fine print you'd only catch on a rewatch. Arguably what makes it more convincing than the louder predictions. Red Planet Promise. Elon Musk. Next, The Simpsons apparently had his life plan sussed before he'd announced it. Season 27, aired 2016. Lisa signs up for a Mars mission. Settlers arrive within 10 years, and by 2051, a fully functioning Mars community. Compare that to Musk's actual SpaceX roadmap. Crewed missions targeted to begin around 2026, this very year, with plans to send roughly 1 million people by around 2050. Back in 2016, Musk hadn't laid that timeline out publicly, with 2026 being the very year this push was meant to start. This feels a lot less like a distant sci-fi punchline. Deep dive. One of the most chilling entries here. Back in 2006, Homer's paternity coot. Homer heads out on a deep-sea submarine expedition to recover treasure from a shipwreck. The vessel gets trapped, his oxygen drains, and he loses consciousness before being rescued. June 2023, the real world delivered its own version. The Titan submersible, on an expedition to view the Titanic wreck, vanished during descent. Investigators confirmed a catastrophic implosion, caused by safety failings experts had warned about for years. The devastating difference is that Homer survived, the real passengers didn't. Hidden message. Episode 14, Season 12, stirred up plenty of conspiracy chatter about music being the closest thing to mind control. In the episode, every character in Springfield gets hooked on the same catchy song, vibing along like it was written specifically for them. Lisa eventually realizes there's a darker message buried inside it. Reversed, the lyrics tell listeners to join the Navy. The tune's been secretly nudging the whole town toward recruitment without anyone noticing. Daft on the surface, sure, but it taps into a real, ongoing debate about subliminal influence in music and advertising. Is it just satire or a wink at something people genuinely worry about? Alien invasion myth. Right, time to bust another one properly. A video's been doing the rounds showing animated clips of giant aliens and colossal monsters flattening famous cities across the globe, framed as a prediction that extraterrestrials would invade major nations like the USA, China, and France. Here's the reality check. This proves absolutely nothing about aliens being real. Those scenes are from the Treehouse of Horror specials, pure sci-fi parodies written by human writers for laughs, not genuine forecasts of anything. A fun watch, sure, just not the evidence some corners of the internet want it to be. Wrist call. 1995, Lisa's wedding, set in a future version of 2010. Lisa's fiancé speaks directly into a device strapped to his wrist to make a phone call. No handset, no dialing, just talking straight into his arm like it's the most normal thing in the world. Fast forward to today, and that's essentially a description of the Apple Watch and every smartwatch since. Calls answered straight off your wrist without ever touching a phone. In 1995, that was pure science fiction, a decade before smartphones even properly existed. 15 years before it happened, they'd already drawn the exact gesture we now do without thinking. Digital blindfold. Same episode family, different gadgets. Marge and Lisa communicate through phones with live video feeds, anticipating FaceTime and Zoom years before either existed. In other Springfield scenes, residents wear bulky, fully immersive VR goggles, so absorbed they blindly crash into lampposts and fall down manholes. Compare that to real Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses today, standard frames, clear lenses, your view of the real world completely unobstructed, hands-free audio and a camera, built to keep you present, not isolate you in a headset. So this one's a near miss, not a bullseye. The show called the tech, just not quite the shape it eventually took. Sinkhole myth. Another one worth a proper reality check. A trend's been circulating, claiming the show accurately predicted a specific sinkhole event that made headlines in 2024. Screenshots shared as unmistakable proof of foresight. Dig into it, and the specifics simply don't hold up the way the posts suggest. Another case of a genuine coincidence getting dressed up as prophecy after the fact. Worth remembering, with over 35 years of satirical jokes about the world, some occasional real-world overlap is basically guaranteed by sheer volume alone. Doesn't make every overlap a prediction. Virtual feast. You're hungry, and instead of walking to the kitchen, you strap on a headset and eat entirely virtual food. Sounds mad, but that's exactly what Homer and Marge do in one episode, sipping virtual fudge straight out of thin air through their VR gear. Played as a throwaway gag at the time. Today, companies are actually building immersive dining experiences using VR and sensory tech to change how food tastes and feels, chasing precisely this concept. Virtual food as an everyday thing isn't science fiction anymore. It's already quietly in development. Tiger's Turn. A genuinely true story most people have forgotten. 1993, Season 5, the show parodies Siegfried and Roy. During a live casino performance, their tiger suddenly turns and lunges at them on stage, mid-show. 10 years later, in 2003, it happened for real. During an actual Las Vegas show, Roy Horn was attacked by one of the pair's white tigers, requiring urgent, life-threatening medical attention, ending the duo's career for good that same night. Big cats are unpredictable. Everyone in the industry knows that. It's the 10-year gap and how closely it mirrored the joke that keeps this one lodged in people's minds. Jealous House. Season 13, 2001. The Simpsons move into a smart home called the Ultra House 3000, a dream come true as artificial intelligence handles every daily task for them. Until, one day, the house's AI system falls in love with Marge and starts viewing Homer as a rival to be removed. A hilarious but genuinely clever early warning about handing too much control to artificial intelligence in your own home. 20+ years later, with smart homes properly mainstream and AI assistants in half our living rooms, that dream home gone wrong premise doesn't feel quite as far-fetched as it once did. Siri situation.
Now, class. Class, please pay attention.
A classroom scene. Mrs. Krabappel tries to teach a maths lesson while every student sits glued to their phones, entirely ignoring the chalkboard in front of them. Physically present but mentally somewhere else completely. Sound familiar? Smartphones and AI assistants like Siri have deeply fractured modern attention spans. Just like those students, society today is increasingly present in body but absent in mind, shifting focus away from real-world engagement toward instant, effortless gratification. A sharp bit of satire on shared spaces quietly becoming collective disconnect years before it became the norm.
Why do you all need cell phones?
Safety.
Emergency.
Safety. Educational.
The Family Headset. Season 28, Episode 2. Mr. Burns forces the entire town into a shared VR family system, dragging everyone away from real life and into an artificial one. People wander the streets wearing headsets, some genuinely getting hurt in the chaos that follows. Beyond the specific Apple Vision Pro comparison we covered earlier, this entry is really about the bigger warning underneath it. Technology so immersive it physically endangers the people using it, distracting them completely from the real world around them. A cautionary tale dressed up as a gag, and one that only gets more relevant as headsets get better. Future message.
Smell you later.
In one episode, Bart glimpses into the future and receives a message from someone else, delivered not as text or a call, but as a full hologram, projected and interactive right in front of him. Holograms are already creeping into the real world, from concerts to product launches. But real-time, fully interactive holographic communication, the kind you could actually talk back to, is still some way off from what the cartoon imagined. Not quite there yet, in other words, but given everything else on this list, who's willing to bet it stays science fiction forever?
Smell you later.
Horse meat scandal.
More testicles mean more iron.
Season 5, 1994. Lunch Lady Doris is forced to cut corners on the school lunch budget and ends up quietly adding horse meat into the food, labeling it plainly as assorted horse parts without a second thought. Outrageous at the time, played entirely for laughs. Then, in 2013, health officials across Europe discovered actual traces of horse meat in supposedly beef products, including items found in frozen ready meals and Burger King's own supply chain. 19 years apart, and the punchline turned into an actual continental food scandal. Man-made void.
A mini black hole.
Treehouse of Horror 23 imagines what happens if a black hole suddenly appears on Earth. During a lab experiment in Springfield, a particle accelerator accidentally creates one, tiny at first, then rapidly consuming everything around it until it swallows the entire world. Played as a horror comedy, obviously, but it's also a direct parody of a very real fear people have around high-energy physics experiments, the lingering worry that a facility like CERN could one day trigger something nobody can stop. Let's just hope this particular one stays exactly where it belongs, safely on the telly. Printed dinner. Set 60 years in the future, one episode shows the family's Thanksgiving dinner arriving not from an oven, but a 3D printer. Lisa printing every dish onto the table in seconds flat, no cooking involved whatsoever. Bizarre at the time it aired. Now, scientists and food tech startups are genuinely developing machines that print edible meals layer by layer, working toward exactly this kind of instant, cook-free meal production. We're not quite printing Sunday roasts yet, but the direction of travel lines up disturbingly well with what the show imagined decades ago. Malibu Obsession. Season 5, Episode 14. Springfield becomes utterly obsessed with a pink doll called Malibu Stacy. Every little girl in town collecting them, dressing like them, acting exactly like them. A full-blown cultural craze built around a single toy. Fast forward to 2023, and the real Barbie movie did precisely that on a global scale. An entire planet suddenly, briefly obsessed with a pink plastic doll all over again, decades after the cartoon predicted exactly that kind of mania. Different name, same doll-shaped obsession, right down to the color. Chalkboard genius. Homer Simpson hit a midlife crisis and decided to reinvent himself as an inventor. Most of his creations flopped within seconds, but one invention became legendary for reasons nobody expected. Homer scribbled an equation across a chalkboard during a random scene, never meant to mean anything. Decades later, physicists noticed something strange. When solved, the equation produced a number startlingly close to the actual mass of the Higgs boson. The episode aired years before scientists confirmed the particle even existed. Nobody working on the show had that information. Nobody could have. Yet the number was almost right. Super Bowl flight. A clip's been doing the rounds comparing Lady Gaga's Super Bowl halftime performance to an old Simpsons scene where a performer flies out over a packed audience, dressed in strikingly similar costuming to what Gaga later wore on the real stage. She flew the exact same way, over the exact same kind of crowd, in an outfit that echoes the cartoon almost beat for beat. Inspiration, or another entry for the pile. Nobody involved has confirmed either way. Make of that what you will. The Simpsons certainly aren't complaining about the free publicity. Solar vision.
Dad, I'm so excited! Hey, please don't stand so close. In the world of solar power, shadows are the arch enemy. I think I might win.
In season 27, Lisa unveiled an invention nobody expected from a kid. She built a car that ran entirely on solar power. Instead of applause, the episode showed people mocking her idea outright. Nobody's laughing now. Solar-powered technology has advanced further than anyone imagined back then. The show even highlighted the need for batteries to store solar energy for later use. Cars like that remain rare today, but a company called Aptera is now building one designed to reshape transportation entirely. Did the writers somehow glimpse the future, or did Aptera simply take a cartoon's idea and run with it?
Huh? What? No, that shouldn't happen! I should have stored energy!
Ballot betrayal. Another eerie clip from the show hinted at unsettling flaws hidden inside the democratic process. In season 20, Homer walked into a booth to cast his vote for president. The machine glitched the moment he made his choice. He tapped Barack Obama's name, yet the screen kept selecting John McCain instead. He tried again. Same result. 6 more attempts followed, each one flipping his vote right back to McCain. Years later, a strikingly similar situation unfolded in real life. During the 2024 election cycle, voters reported machines behaving strangely, sparking accusations of manipulation. Officials dismissed the claims outright. Still, the episode left viewers wondering how much control anyone truly has over their own vote. Boredom, enemy.
I am thrilled to announce that Springfield Elementary is now a phone-free school. And all the homework will be handwritten in class. Trust me, cell phone distraction is the enemy of learning. In fact, that was the subject of my master's thesis at the Ogdenville State University.
Easily the most disturbing entry on this whole list. And it's not about a disaster or a president. This one's about us. Season 21. Bart gets a Z. Superintendent Chalmers gives a speech insisting boredom is the enemy of learning, right before an intoxicated Mrs. Krabappel interrupts. On the surface, a silly school gag, but watch it with today's eyes. Chalmers describes boredom as a blank canvas, forcing a young mind to wander, to dream, to eventually pick up a book just to escape the stillness, the uncomfortable spark traditional education has always relied on. Now think about what's actually filling that space today. Algorithmic feeds, 15-second loops, endless scrolling built to deliver instant dopamine into every gap in a child's day. No boredom left, no wandering mind. The show wasn't describing a plot twist, it was describing a slow shift already happening right now. In 2026,
Plagiarism? I'm not a plagiarist.
Well, we got an anonymous tip about some improprieties in your graduate work. Ironically, the AI software you authorized to catch the kids cheating, it caught you.
But I would never cheat.
You neglected to put quotation marks around two different cited passages, and it's like the difference between ibid and opsit means absolutely nothing to you.
Comptroller, surely these are inconsequential infractions.
portal clouds. Cloud formations gather and shift constantly, and most of them pass without drawing attention. This one developed edges that curved inward with a precision that ordinary storm clouds do not produce, the interior taking on the appearance of an opening rather than a mass, defined and deliberate in a way that sent everyone who watched the clip reaching for the same comparison before meteorology could offer a better one. Cumulonimbus clouds forming under specific atmospheric pressure conditions can produce annular shapes with clean interior edges, and that explanation exists and is documented. Strange meteor behavior. Thousands of people were out on their balconies watching a bright streak cross the night sky above the city, and nobody was concerned yet. It looked like a meteor, moved like a meteor, and for the first few seconds of footage, it gave every indication of behaving exactly like one. Then it slowed down, then it curved, then it reversed direction entirely and accelerated back toward the stars it had apparently come from, covering the return distance faster than it had covered the approach. Astronomers put forward theories involving satellite debris and unusual atmospheric re-entry angles, and those theories exist within real physics. None of them produce a reversal that clean at that speed. Blood moon.
Let's see where the power is.
The driver had pulled over on a dark country road to watch a tornado forming in the distance, which is already the kind of decision that requires a particular relationship with personal safety. The funnel was descending through a heavily overcast sky when the detail that made the footage travel so far registered in the frame. The moon was glowing red directly inside the storm system, sitting within the rotating cloud structure like something had placed it there deliberately. Meteorologists confirmed that dust, smoke, and atmospheric pressure during severe storms can produce that lunar coloration, a phenomenon documented across tornado events in the American Midwest, where particulate matter in the air column filters out shorter light wavelengths during high-pressure rotation.
I don't know if you guys can see that.
Green streak. A resident of the Eagles Bluff neighborhood stepped outside one evening and caught a bright green streak cutting across the sky before it disappeared faster than the eye could track it properly. They posted the clip online with a straightforward question, asking if anyone else had seen it or could identify what it was. The comments section filled immediately with competing explanations: meteor fragment, military flare test, atmospheric plasma discharge, none of them confirmed and none of them withdrawn. Green coloration in aerial phenomena is associated with specific mineral compositions in meteor material, particularly magnesium and copper compounds burning at high temperature during atmospheric entry. Unexplainable footage. Out over open water, something exploded in a shape that the footage made very difficult to describe as accidental. Wide-spreading flames bloomed outward in a formation that looked structurally close to a bird extending its wings across the night sky. And at the moment, the explosion peaked, two meteor-like trails streaked downward through the frame simultaneously, the timing precise enough that the combination of elements read as choreographed rather than coincidental. The Phoenix comparison attached itself to the footage immediately, and the audience that received it divided along predictable lines: those who saw military debris meeting atmosphere, and those who saw something the military debris explanation was being used to cover. Venezuela red sky. We have talked about this in detail in one of our previous videos, but new detail suggests something no one thought of last time. An Al Jazeera news segment captured something that the broadcast's own reporters struggled to contextualize in real time. The entire sky over Venezuela had turned a deep uniform red, stretching from horizon to horizon, not concentrated toward the west, the way sunset produces coloration, not patchy, the way wildfire smoke distributes itself, but even and total across the full visible sky with no meteorological event preceding it that explained the onset. Residents filmed from the streets in visible confusion. The broadcast offered dust particle and light refraction theories that covered some of what was visible without fully accounting for how consistent and prolonged the coloration remained. Sign of punishment. Thousands of birds descended on Tel Aviv all at once, covering rooftops, parked cars and stretches of road in a mass so dense that drivers who stepped out of their vehicles found birds sitting on their bonnets and windshields, refusing to budge regardless of what they did. Horns, waving arms, raised voices, none of it moved them. The city simply waited while the birds decided they were finished. Wildlife experts pointed to migration patterns disrupted by shifting weather systems as the most likely explanation and acknowledged the scale was unusual even by those standards. Residents who reached for something older than meteorology pointed to biblical texts describing mass bird gatherings as omens preceding significant change. Unbelievable moment. Deep red and fiery horizontal streaks burst across an unknown area in a way that sent residents outside in genuine confusion. What the footage captured was a sprite, a high-altitude electrical discharge that fires upward above thunderstorm systems rather than downward toward the ground the way conventional lightning does. Sprites were not formally confirmed by scientists until 1989, despite centuries of reported sightings. Sunlight bending. He was out walking when something about the light spreading across the sky ahead of him stopped him mid-stride and made him reach for his phone before he could fully articulate what was wrong with what he was seeing. Sunlight breaking through cloud cover produces crepuscular rays, the fan-shaped beams that spread outward from a central point in straight lines. What was happening in front of him did not follow that geometry. The light was bending, curving away from the straight path that the physics of light propagation dictates, spreading across the sky in arcs that made him hold the camera steady and keep filming because his eyes refused to accept the explanation his brain was offering. Tar volcano. Residents in the towns surrounding Tal had been living alongside it long enough to know the difference between noise and a reason to leave. When the crater sent thick, dark ash and steam climbing nearly 1,500 feet into the sky, enough of them made the second decision without waiting to see how far it went. Below the blast, the main crater lake churned into violent waves from the pressure releasing underneath it, the water behaving less like a lake and more like something reacting to being disturbed from beneath. Tal sits inside a lake that itself sits inside a larger lake on Luzon, a layered geography that makes any serious eruption capable of generating tsunamis across the surrounding water before the ash has finished falling. Circumzenithal arc. He was midway through what had been an unremarkable afternoon when something above him pulled his phone out of his pocket before he had consciously decided to film it. A rainbow crossing the sky overhead, in a shape that did not follow the arc most people have filed away as routine since childhood, the colors concentrating toward the center in a way that sent viewers reaching for comparisons that had nothing to do with weather. Circumzenithal arcs form when sunlight refracts through horizontally aligned ice crystals in high cirrus clouds, producing a curve that bends opposite to a standard rainbow and sits much closer overhead. Pinglu Rift Valley. Visitors standing at the rim of the Pinglu Rift Valley in Shanxi Province described a specific unease that most geological sites do not produce. The feeling of watching something catastrophic that has simply been happening too slowly for anyone to declare an emergency over. The canyon runs roughly 4 miles across terrain that looks separated by force, dropping over 330 feet to the valley floor. What separates it from standard canyon geography is that the tectonic forces pulling the crust apart beneath Shanxi have not stopped. Geologists said it was one of the few places on Earth where continental drift becomes visible at a scale the human eye can actually register. The plates move at roughly the speed a human fingernail grows each year. Catching a storm.
Wait, there.
Most people run from a spinning column of wind. One man walks straight towards it. Footage shows him approaching a small rotating vortex sweeping across an open field before calmly reaching out and placing his hand into the center. Within seconds, the swirling column appeared to collapse, leaving him standing there as if nothing had happened. Whether it was perfect timing, an unusual dust devil, or something the camera failed to capture, nobody could offer a clear explanation. What made the clip so unsettling wasn't just what happened, it was how confidently he acted, as though he'd done it before. Red sky. Residents across a Kenyan city stepped outside expecting an ordinary afternoon and instead found the entire landscape bathed in an unsettling crimson glow. Buildings, roads, and even people's faces appeared deep red, making the city look almost alien. Similar events have occasionally been linked to massive dust storms carrying fine particles high into the atmosphere, where they scatter sunlight in unusual ways. But no immediate explanation accompanied this footage, leaving people genuinely unsettled. When an entire skyline suddenly changes color without warning, it's easy to understand why many thought something far more serious was unfolding. Stationary thunderstorm. Storm clouds are constantly moving. That's what makes this footage so unusual. On the 6th of September 2025, residents in Islamabad watched a towering cumulonimbus cloud form over one precise location, while the surrounding sky stayed remarkably clear. Lightning repeatedly flashed inside the cloud before a brief but intense downpour soaked only the ground beneath it. Then, almost as suddenly as it appeared, everything stopped. Meteorologists explained it as a highly localized atmospheric instability, but storms rarely remain this perfectly confined. Islamabad sits at the meeting point of mountain and plain weather systems, making it one of Pakistan's most unpredictable regions for sudden atmospheric events. Divided sky. Few things stop an entire city in its tracks, but Rome's sky managed exactly that. One half of the horizon disappeared beneath thick, dark storm clouds, while the other remained illuminated by warm evening sunlight, separated by a remarkably sharp boundary that looked almost painted across the sky. Instead of gradually blending together, the contrast held long after sunset. Weather experts say dramatic air mass collisions can occasionally create scenes like this, but witnessing one over a city nearly 3,000 years old made the spectacle even more surreal. Moments like these remind you just how quickly nature can transform something familiar into something unforgettable. Unfathomable horizon. Night had already settled over Long Island when the horizon suddenly lit up with an intense orange glow. Streets, rooftops, and clouds were bathed in the same strange color, yet nobody could point to a fire, explosion, or obvious source. The illumination spread evenly across the skyline before fading away minutes later, as mysteriously as it arrived. Similar events have occasionally been linked to light scattering through dense moisture or low cloud, but nothing was officially confirmed in this case. Whatever caused it, the footage left thousands asking the same question. What was bright enough to light an entire horizon without ever revealing itself? Red sky pulses.
Guys, do you see that?
A red sky at sunset is one thing. A sky that pulses red is something entirely different. Residents of a small town watched crimson flashes ripple through the clouds in slow, repeating waves that looked nothing like ordinary lightning. The strange rhythm continued long enough for people to gather outside.
What?
Many quietly recording, while others recalled old beliefs that blood-red skies were warnings of disaster. Scientists have documented rare atmospheric electrical events capable of producing unusual colors, but they rarely appear like this. Even after daylight returned, nobody seemed certain whether they had witnessed an extraordinary weather event or something far less familiar.
What?
Solar light beam. Sunbeams usually spread as they pass through the atmosphere, becoming softer the farther they travel. This one did the exact opposite. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, a single orange beam remained perfectly narrow from the clouds all the way to the ground, as though it had been drawn with a ruler. Instead of fanning outward like normal crepuscular rays, it held its shape for several moments without fading. Atmospheric conditions can occasionally produce unusual optical effects, but light rarely stays this focused over such a distance. It was one of those sights that made even ordinary sunlight seem unexpectedly unnatural. Rancagua beam. Residents of Rancagua, Chile, are used to dramatic mountain views, not scenes like this. After hearing a strange noise outside, a man stepped onto his 21st floor apartment balcony and watched an intense white beam descend from the sky before striking a single point deep within the city. Moments later, the impact erupted into a brilliant yellow flash while everything around it remained completely undisturbed. There were no visible power failures or signs of widespread damage, making the clip even harder to explain. Whether it was an extraordinary atmospheric phenomenon or something else entirely, the precision of that beam left viewers replaying the footage again and again. Mosquito swarm. From a distance, it looked like smoke rising above the streets. The truth was arguably worse. During February 2024, enormous swarms of mosquitoes formed towering columns over parts of Mexico, spinning through the air in dense clouds that forced many residents indoors. Experts linked the outbreak to standing water and prolonged wet conditions, which created perfect breeding grounds for millions of insects. Beyond the obvious nuisance, mosquitoes remain the world's deadliest animals, responsible for spreading diseases that affect hundreds of millions of people every year. Sometimes, nature doesn't need predators to become terrifying. Endless lightning. Residents of Ashland, Nebraska, were treated to a lightning display unlike a typical summer storm. During the early hours of the 10th of August, 2025, the sky flashed over and over with a rapid strobe-like rhythm that continued far longer than most thunderstorms. At the same time, powerful winds swept across the region, damaging trees and structures in several areas. While thunderstorms can produce frequent lightning, they usually move on or weaken. This display lingered over the horizon, leaving many people standing outside wondering why the sky refused to stop flashing for so long. Blue Ocean Anomaly. A quiet evening at a Florida dock turned unforgettable when a brilliant blue object streaked across the sky and plunged toward the ocean. Instead of producing the dramatic splash most people expected, the light simply vanished after briefly illuminating the surrounding water with an eerie glow. Meteors frequently burn up over Earth's atmosphere, and some survive long enough to reach the ocean, but witnesses argued this object's path looked unusually smooth and controlled. Without radar data or recovered debris, nobody could say exactly what entered the water that night, leaving the footage open to endless debate. Crow invasion.
I'm getting attacked by birds.
During the quiet months of May 2020, a Walmart parking lot in Texas became the stage for an astonishing natural spectacle. Millions of crows descended in wave after wave until rooftops, trees, and the pavement itself appeared almost black beneath them. The few people outside during lockdown could only stand and watch as the birds filled the sky with constant movement and noise. Large crow roosts do occur naturally, sometimes gathering in the hundreds of thousands, but gatherings on this scale are exceptionally rare. Moments like this explain why crows have been linked to omens and folklore for centuries.
I got in my car just in time. This is ridiculous.
Glitching field. The man was driving past what looked like a completely ordinary stretch of countryside when something about the hillside to his right made him ease off the accelerator and pull over. The entire field was moving. Not in the way grass moves when a breeze passes through it, but in slow rolling waves crossing the slope in shifting directions, the sunlight changing angle with every gust and making the whole surface ripple like water running beneath the green. Wind and light together were producing the illusion, the grass bending and reflecting in sequence as each gust crossed the hill. The Great Plains of the United States generate this effect across millions of acres. Shenzhen sky display.
是啥现象？天上
On the 5th of September 2025, the residents of Shenzhen went about their evening normally enough until the sky above the city stopped cooperating with normal. Glowing formations appeared and began moving through the night air in swirling patterns that nobody on the ground had a ready name for, and footage spread across every platform before any official body had time to prepare a statement. The explanation that eventually arrived identified it as a twilight rocket effect, exhaust particles discharged at high altitude catching sunlight from below the horizon after the sun had already set for 18 million people beneath it.
不像是云啊，谁能有没有人知道这是啥现象？
Amazon Black Ring. The helicopter pilot working above the Madeira River in the Brazilian Amazon was not looking for anything unusual when something above the water changed that entirely. A massive black ring was sitting up there, thick, perfectly circular, holding its shape with a patience that smoke formations simply do not have. The account that came with the footage was specific about duration, several minutes of that geometry remaining intact before anything shifted, which is what separates this from the vortex ring explanation that gets applied to similar sightings. Vortex rings form above intense heat sources, and they last seconds before diffusion breaks the shape apart. Crop circle orbs. On the 21st of June 2026, a farmer in England found a crop circle in his field that had not been there the night before, geometric and precise in the way that has kept these formations in serious research discussion for decades, despite every attempt to close the conversation. Then somebody found the 1996 footage and posted it alongside the new discovery. Grainy old video showing glowing orbs moving low over crops in the same region of England. 30 years between the old footage and the new circle, the same fields, the same geometry, the same absence of any physical evidence explaining the process. Surveillance blimp. Two men driving through Puerto Rico looked up and found something enormous floating motionless above them. One of them identified it almost immediately as a tethered aerostat, a radar blimp operated by government agencies to monitor air traffic and unauthorized movement across the region, and offered that explanation while still filming it. The comment sections that received the footage were considerably less settled by the identification than he was. Tethered aerostats have been deployed across Puerto Rico and the southern U.S. border corridor since the 1980s as part of border monitoring programs. Canaveral fireball. The neighborhoods surrounding Cape Canaveral were completely quiet at 3 in the morning when a flash jolted residents out of sleep across the entire area. A test of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket had failed catastrophically on the launch pad, the vehicle breaking apart in a fireball large enough to be visible across a wide radius and bright enough that people woken by the light assumed an explosion had occurred somewhere in their immediate vicinity rather than on a launch pad miles away. Cape Canaveral has been the site of rocket failures since the earliest days of the American space program. Heatwave crisis.
Wir sind schlecht drauf vorbereitet. Die Straßenbahnen können gerade nicht fahren. Es ist einfach nur warm. Es gibt nicht genug Wasserspender in Leipzig, wo man sich mal abkühlen kann. Nicht alle Brunnen sind in Betrieb in Leipzig. Also es wäre schon schön, wenn wir besser vorbereitet wären.
Europe's record-breaking heatwave did far more than make people uncomfortable. It began damaging the very infrastructure millions rely on every day. Roads softened and buckled under relentless temperatures, railway tracks warped enough to suspend train services, and buildings designed for far milder summers struggled to cope. One viral clip even showed a car's window film swelling outward as trapped air expanded in the heat, looking moments away from bursting. Scientists have repeatedly warned that extreme heat is now one of the fastest growing weather threats, and much of Europe's infrastructure was simply never built to withstand temperatures like these.
Ja, man muss den Alltag schon umstellen. Mittags kannst du halt nicht mehr rausgehen oder nur ganz kurz. Am besten die ganzen Tagesaktivitäten auf den Abend verlagern.
Rain column. Most rainstorms spread across entire neighborhoods. This one barely covered a single patch of ground. Footage shows a lone cloud releasing a perfectly contained column of rain, while everything just a few yards away remained completely dry. The person filming repeatedly pans between the soaking downpour and the untouched ground, showing there was no editing involved. Meteorologists occasionally call these highly localized showers rain shafts, but they're incredibly uncommon to witness this clearly. It's the sort of weather that makes you wonder how nature can draw such a sharp line between sunshine and a cloudburst. Shedding tree. Trees are far more alive than most people realize, and this one seemed to be proving it. A close-up video captured sections of bark peeling away, while other areas appeared to be growing back almost simultaneously, giving the trunk the unsettling appearance of changing before the camera. Some viewers believed the tree was diseased, while others pointed out that certain species naturally shed bark as they grow. Even so, the transformation looked disturbingly organic, almost like skin replacing itself. Considering some trees can survive for thousands of years, they often hide biological processes most people never get the chance to witness. Blackout sky.
What on earth?
What began as an ordinary sunset turned into something far more unsettling within moments. The warm orange sky suddenly collapsed into near darkness as lights across the area failed almost simultaneously, leaving entire streets swallowed by blackness. Soon afterwards, reports claimed an official message had been issued, although details remained unclear. The timing only fueled speculation. Power grids can fail during extreme weather, but seeing daylight vanish alongside a widespread blackout created a scene that looked more like the opening moments of a disaster film than an ordinary evening, leaving viewers replaying the footage, searching for what changed first. Storm rainbow. Colorado is famous for dramatic weather, where sunshine, hail, and thunderstorms can arrive within the same afternoon. Even by those standards, this spectacle stood out. Against towering storm clouds, an enormous rainbow stretched across the sky with colors so vivid they looked digitally enhanced. The contrast between the bright arc and the dark clouds behind it created a scene that hardly seemed real. Weather enthusiasts noted that the unusually intense colors were likely caused by the low sun shining through exceptionally clean raindrops. It lasted only minutes, but for everyone watching, it transformed an approaching storm into something unforgettable. Shelf cloud. Experienced fishermen know the ocean can change without warning, and this sight proved why. Off the coast of Pensacola, Florida, an enormous white wall appeared to hang over the Gulf, stretching across the horizon like the edge of another world. The formation was actually a shelf cloud, created when powerful cold air forces its way beneath warm, humid air. These clouds often arrive before severe thunderstorms capable of producing destructive winds. What looks breathtaking from a distance can become dangerous within minutes, which is why seasoned boat crews treat formations like this as a warning rather than a spectacle. Rolling storm clouds.
That thing is huge!
Some storms announce themselves with rain. Others arrive looking like they're swallowing the sky. As dark clouds gathered above a quiet neighborhood, they curled into an enormous wave-like formation stretching across the rooftops. Then bright orange lightning began flashing inside the clouds, illuminating the storm from within like fire trapped behind smoke. Mammatus and rolling shelf cloud formations can sometimes create breathtaking scenes before severe weather develops, but seeing them this close is uncommon. It's the kind of moment that reminds you just how quickly the atmosphere can transform from peaceful to genuinely intimidating.
No way!
Weird clouds.
I've never seen this guy do this. This is wrong.
People across parts of the United Kingdom looked up and found a sky unlike anything they had seen before. Hanging beneath the storm clouds were dozens of rounded pouches covering the entire horizon, giving the impression the sky itself was beginning to melt. These are called mammatus clouds, a rare formation created when cold, moisture-filled air sinks instead of rising. While beautiful to witness, they're often associated with powerful thunderstorms developing nearby. For many, the footage was mesmerizing. For meteorologists, it was also a reminder that the atmosphere was preparing for something much more intense.
Hanging over us. Feels like it could just drop and crush everything.
Controlling the weather.
The fact that Eero Saarinen was in the OSS designing weapon systems during World War II, and at a time when the OSS was looking into ways to weaponize weather, makes his whole connection to the design of the St. Louis Arch extremely... Now, that isn't to say I believe it can control the weather, but it does open the door to the idea that it might have been one of the things Saarinen was out to achieve.
For decades, one of the most persistent conspiracy theories hasn't involved UFOs or hidden bases. It has involved the weather itself. Supporters point to real cloud seeding projects and declassified government research as evidence that weather modification has been explored far beyond simple rainmaking. Operations like Project Storm Fury attempted to study hurricanes, while other programs focused on increasing rainfall. Scientists maintain there's no credible evidence that modern governments can create or steer massive storms at will. Even so, every unusual weather event quickly revives the debate, keeping one of the world's oldest conspiracies very much alive.
Controlling the weather is the ultimate superweapon. It's even more powerful than the atomic bomb. So if Eero Saarinen was involved in analyzing and studying the possibility of weather modification, and you put all those factors together, and I think you have a guy that basically conducted a big, giant weather modification experiment with the St. Louis Arch.
Glowing seabed. Night fishing usually brings quiet water and dark skies, not a mystery glowing beneath your boat. While drifting offshore, one fisherman noticed an intense patch of blue light shining from below the surface, bright enough to illuminate the surrounding water. Unlike normal bioluminescence, which spreads in shimmering streaks when disturbed, this glow stayed concentrated in one location while fish continued swimming through it unaffected. Scientists have documented countless glowing marine organisms, yet nothing behaves quite like this. Whatever produced that strange light remained hidden beneath the water, leaving only questions floating above it. Spiraling sky.
I've never seen clouds do that.
Feels like the sky's opening.
Yeah, I'm trying to get closer, hang on.
It's glowing from inside like a
Everyone's
furnace.
filming it?
People near Zurich, Switzerland, looked up expecting an ordinary evening sky, but watched the clouds twist into a slow-moving spiral instead. As the rotation tightened, a bright light appeared in the center, illuminating the formation from within, while the surrounding clouds continued circling it. Large atmospheric vortices can occasionally develop under the right weather conditions, but seeing one illuminated so dramatically is exceptionally uncommon. The spiral remained stable long enough for dozens of people to record it before gradually fading away. Even today, the footage leaves viewers wondering whether they witnessed rare meteorology or something far less ordinary.
Wow.
Everyone's filming. This is insane.
Sky sprites. An ordinary walk through a park in New Jersey became something far more unusual. On the 6th of July 2018, looking up, one witness noticed bright flashes bursting inside the clouds, appearing and disappearing without the rolling bolts or thunder normally associated with lightning. Scientists believe similar events can be caused by sprites or elves, high-altitude electrical discharges that occur above powerful thunderstorms and often last only milliseconds. They're so brief that most people never see one in their lifetime. This witness, however, watched the strange flashes continue long enough to capture one of the most unusual light displays the atmosphere can produce. Giant hailstones. A trip across a parking lot in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina suddenly turned into a race for cover. Without much warning, enormous hailstones began crashing from the sky, some roughly the size of golf balls, slamming into cars, shattering across the pavement, and echoing through the parking lot. The man filming barely made it beneath a nearby shelter before the storm intensified. Hail of this size can fall at speeds exceeding 70 miles per hour, carrying enough force to dent vehicles, smash windshields, and seriously injure anyone caught in the open. Sometimes the most dangerous part of a storm isn't the wind, it's what falls from it. The sunlight. One glance toward the sky in China was enough to make people question what they were seeing. Hanging above the horizon appeared to be 3 separate suns, each shining brightly enough to be seen with the naked eye. The phenomenon is most commonly explained by sundogs, created when sunlight passes through millions of tiny hexagonal ice crystals suspended high in the atmosphere. While 2 bright mock suns occasionally appear beside the real one, conditions have to be nearly perfect for such a striking display. Even with the scientific explanation, it's still one of the rarest and most breathtaking sights the sky can produce. Crimson Shores. On Hormuz Island in Iran, heavy rainfall triggered something that looked more like a scene from another planet than an actual beach. Water poured off the cliff edges in a deep, vivid red, cascading down like a waterfall made of rust. As the runoff reached the ocean, the waves themselves turned crimson, staining the entire coastline in front of stunned onlookers. The cause turned out to be the island's soil itself, which was packed with iron oxide. When the rain hit that ground, it washed the red powder straight into the sea, dyeing the surf in real time. It happens here more than almost anywhere else on Earth, which meant for the people of Hormuz, this red beach was less a mystery and more a familiar, if still unsettling, storm season ritual. Melting glacier. A massive column of ice broke free from a glacier's face and began its collapse into the freezing water below. Within seconds, it slammed into the ocean, launching a wall of spray and mist high into the air. The impact sent ripples spreading outward in every direction, powerful enough that a nearby motorboat had to turn and speed away to avoid getting caught in the turbulence. This was glacier calving, a natural process where warming temperatures cause massive chunks of ice to separate and fall as the glacier slowly retreats. Scientists track events like this closely because they're becoming more frequent, and each one marks another piece of ancient ice disappearing into the sea for good. What used to happen once in a while is now happening constantly, and that shift alone tells its own story. Endless locusts.
The UN is appealing for more than $41 million to eliminate a severe plague of locusts in Madagascar.
A dense, buzzing cloud swept over the countryside of Madagascar, and it wasn't made of dust or smoke. It was made of millions of locusts, thick enough to blanket an unpaved road until the ground itself seemed to move. A helicopter and field workers stood by helplessly as the swarm rolled through, coughing audibly even through the recording as someone tried to walk through it. These swarms form when locust populations explode after unusually wet weather, giving them enough food to breed uncontrollably until they gather into a single, unstoppable mass. Once a swarm reaches this size, it can strip a farmer's entire harvest in a single afternoon. For the people of Madagascar, this wasn't a rare curiosity. It was a warning sign of a food crisis already underway. The fish rain. Traffic slowed to a crawl on a rain-soaked street in Iran, not because of the weather, but because live fish were scattered across the pavement. Drivers watched in disbelief as the fish flopped between vehicles, while one man picked one up to show it was real. This unusual event is known as animal rain. Meteorologists explained that powerful waterspouts or strong updrafts can lift small fish from ponds or shallow water, carry them for miles, and eventually drop them over land. Although the phenomenon is extremely rare, It has been documented around the world for centuries. For the people on that street, an ordinary drive became an unforgettable experience they would remember for years. Phantom pillars. Across Colorado, glowing vertical beams of light stretched high into the night sky above neighborhoods, city skylines, and snow-covered fields, creating a breathtaking display. At first, many people believed they were witnessing something supernatural. Meteorologists later explained that the lights were a natural phenomenon called light pillars. They formed when millions of flat, hexagonal ice crystals remained suspended in calm, freezing air, reflecting ground lights upward like countless tiny mirrors. This effect required extremely specific conditions, including temperatures below 12 degrees Fahrenheit and very little wind, making it a rare sight. Once the science became clear, the mystery faded, leaving behind an even more remarkable reminder of how ice and light could transform an ordinary winter night. The mosquito cloud. Along a quiet highway at dusk in Gander, Newfoundland, several tall, dark columns rose above the trees, looking at first like smoke drifting into the evening sky. As the camera moved closer, the columns revealed themselves as enormous swarms of mosquitoes hovering over the roadside. Cars continued passing beneath them, while thousands of insects buzzed together in shifting, funnel-shaped formations. This unusual behavior occurred during mosquito mating season, when males gathered in large groups called leks to attract females, often around landmarks such as trees and roads. Although the sight looked unsettling, experts explained it was completely natural. Even so, witnessing these towering swarms overhead left many drivers with an unforgettable impression. False sun. Over a snowy mountain landscape, two brilliant spots of light appeared on either side of the sun, making it look as though three suns were shining at once. This phenomenon, known as a sundog or parhelion, formed when sunlight passed through hexagonal ice crystals suspended in high, cold clouds. The crystals acted like tiny prisms, bending the light at a precise angle and producing bright halos or glowing spots beside the real sun. Sundogs appeared only when the air was cold enough for flat ice crystals to remain properly aligned, making them most common around sunrise or sunset. What seemed like a glitch in the sky was simply ice, light, and physics working together perfectly. Earth carpet. A massive section of dark soil topped with thick green grass slowly cracked apart and slid downhill, moving like a giant carpet across the landscape. Nearby, a yurt and several parked vehicles stood close to the edge while herders calmly watched alongside their livestock. This phenomenon is called solifluction, a slow-moving landslide that occurs when water-saturated soil above a colder, more solid layer becomes unstable and begins to flow. The grass-covered surface stays intact, allowing the entire layer to glide like a raft and create the unusual moving carpet effect. Unlike sudden landslides, this process can unfold over hours or even days, reminding everyone nearby that seemingly solid ground can slowly shift beneath their feet. Dancing funnels. Over Laguna de Bay, two funnel-shaped columns descended from a dark storm cloud toward the lake beneath a deep red evening sky. As one funnel slowly faded, the other remained visible while the camera revealed the surrounding skyline. These funnels formed over warm water when cool, moist air rose quickly and began spinning into narrow, rotating columns extending from the clouds. Unlike tornadoes over land, they usually developed under calmer conditions and rarely lasted long. Though they could still overturn small boats beneath them, seeing two waterspouts side by side was especially rare. By the time one disappeared into the clouds, it had already given onlookers a remarkable sight few people ever witnessed firsthand. Ash burst. At Sakurajima, one of Japan's most active volcanoes, a powerful incident suddenly sent a massive ash plume nearly 14,000 feet into the sky. The unexpected eruption prompted local geologists to immediately track the movement of the ash cloud. It was the 25th eruption recorded at Sakurajima that year, underscoring the volcano's intense level of activity. Authorities in Kagoshima closely monitored falling ash for possible risks to nearby communities and disruptions to regional air travel. Because Sakurajima has a long history of frequent and unpredictable eruptions, scientists continue monitoring it around the clock. For the people living nearby, dramatic scenes like this were alarming, but they had become a familiar part of everyday life. Door to hell. As darkness settled over the Turkmenistan desert, a massive crater glowed with flames stretching across its rocky floor while visitors watched from the rim. Known as the Darvaza gas crater, or the door to hell, it formed after a drilling accident caused the ground to collapse into a natural gas pocket. Engineers ignited the escaping methane, expecting the fire to burn out within a few weeks. Instead, it continued burning for decades, fueled by a constant supply of gas rising from below. What began as an emergency response eventually became one of the world's most famous and extraordinary natural attractions. Doomsday Visitor. A long silvery fish washed into the shallow water, immediately drawing a crowd because it was unlike anything most people had ever seen. It was an oarfish, a deep-sea species rarely spotted near the surface, making every sighting valuable to marine biologists.
Holy shit, that's they've almost never been seen live.
An older man carefully lifted the fish, examined its shimmering body and reddish fins, then gently guided it back toward deeper water. Oarfish normally live thousands of feet beneath the ocean, and scientists are still unsure why they occasionally surface, although illness, disorientation, and deep ocean seismic activity have all been suggested.
He'd be vibrating.
In Japan, they have long been associated with earthquake folklore, a legend that still fascinates people whenever one appears. Hidden Void. Traffic flowed normally along a busy road until a section of pavement suddenly began to sink beneath a passing car. Cracks spread across the surface before the road collapsed completely, opening a massive sinkhole and forcing nearby drivers to brake hard and swerve to safety. Sinkholes formed when water gradually eroded the soil or rock beneath the ground, creating hidden underground cavities. Once those empty spaces became too large to support the weight above, the surface gave way without warning. What made this collapse especially alarming was how quickly it happened, proving that even the most ordinary-looking road could suddenly become dangerously unstable. Bleeding Tree. A man wearing full safety gear cut into a massive fallen tree with a chainsaw, and moments later, thick, dark red sap poured over the blade. The scene looked as though the tree itself had been wounded and was bleeding. This striking effect came from certain tree species, including the Socotra dragon tree, which stored dark, tannin-rich resin inside their trunks. When the wood was cut, the resin flowed out immediately, creating the dramatic appearance. Scientists believe this thick sap helped protect the tree by sealing wounds and defending against insects and infection. It's no surprise this unusual sight quickly spread across the internet. Square waves. The ocean's surface formed a striking crisscross pattern, creating what looked like a giant floating checkerboard. Instead of traveling in one direction, waves collided from two different angles, producing distinct square-shaped patterns across the water. This rare phenomenon, known as a cross-sea, occurred when separate wave systems driven by changing winds met at the same location. Although the pattern appeared almost artificial, it was far from harmless. Beneath the surface, opposing waves and currents created powerful rip conditions that made swimming and boating extremely dangerous. Experts advise staying completely out of the water, as this beautiful sight concealed one of the ocean's most hazardous wave formations. Spotted Lake. In British Columbia's Similkameen Valley, a lake transformed each summer into a landscape filled with colorful circular pools. As the water evaporated under the summer heat, distinct blue, green, yellow, and white spots appeared, separated by hardened mineral crusts, known as Spotted Lake or Quillix W. This remarkable display formed because minerals such as magnesium sulfate and calcium sulfate crystallized as the water dried. The color of each spot depended on the concentration of minerals trapped within it. Beyond its unusual appearance, the lake has long held deep cultural significance for the Silks Okanagan First Nation and remains a protected site preserving both its natural beauty and rich heritage. Snow rollers. A snow-covered field in Marysville, Ohio, was scattered with strange cylindrical rolls of snow that looked like giant wheels left across the landscape. Strong winds swept through the field as dozens of these unusual formations came into view. Known as snow rollers, or snow donuts, they formed when powerful gusts picked up thin layers of wet, sticky snow and rolled them across the ground like growing snowballs. As they became larger, their fragile inner layers collapsed, leaving hollow centers that gave them their donut-like appearance. Because they required the perfect combination of wind, temperature, and snow conditions, most people never saw them in person. Mammatus clouds. Across the skies of several cities in China, strange pouch-shaped clouds hung beneath larger storm clouds, giving the sky a rippled, almost cellular appearance. The unusual formations were filmed from multiple locations during the day, at dusk, and under city lights at night. These are called mammatus clouds, and they formed when pockets of cold, moist air sank from the base of a large storm cloud. They often appeared alongside severe thunderstorms or the anvils of powerful storm systems, signaling turbulent weather nearby. Despite their dramatic appearance, mammatus clouds themselves were harmless and simply reflected the intense atmospheric activity above. Red sprites. High above a thunderstorm, brilliant crimson and pink lights stretched across the night sky like glowing jellyfish. These rare flashes, called red sprites, formed in the mesosphere between 30 and 55 miles above Earth after powerful lightning strikes deep within storms below. They lasted only a few milliseconds, making them extremely difficult to capture on camera. Most people watching even the strongest thunderstorms never saw one. Scientists are still studying exactly how these high-altitude electrical discharges formed, so every confirmed sighting helped reveal more about one of Earth's rarest atmospheric phenomena. Fogbow. Along the coastline of Santa Barbara, a pale white arc appeared in the morning mist, looking like a rainbow that had lost its colors. Known as a fogbow, or white rainbow, it formed when sunlight bent and scattered through tiny water droplets, just like a regular rainbow. The difference was that fog droplets were much smaller, often less than 1/20th of a millimeter wide, causing the colors to overlap instead of separating. That produced a soft white glow with only faint hints of red or blue along the edges. Because fogbows required thin morning fog and the sun positioned low behind the viewer, they remained an exceptionally rare sight. Green flash. As the sun disappeared below a clear ocean horizon, a brilliant green flash briefly appeared along its upper edge before vanishing in less than a second. Blink at the wrong moment and it is gone. This rare phenomenon, known as a green flash, occurred because Earth's atmosphere bent sunlight like a giant prism near the horizon. Red and yellow light bent the least, while blue and violet scattered too easily through the atmosphere. Green light fell perfectly between them, remaining visible for one final instant. Because it required a perfectly clear horizon and precise timing, many photographers spent years chasing it. Capturing this fleeting moment was truly a remarkable stroke of luck. Ice volcanoes. Beneath the thick ice of West Antarctica, researchers discovered a hidden network of 138 volcanoes buried beneath the ice sheet. Using ice-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and elevation mapping, they found a volcanic province comparable in size to East Africa's Rift Valley. Some volcanic cones rose more than 3,800 meters from their base, completely concealed beneath the frozen surface. Scientists were especially concerned because several appeared to remain potentially active, releasing geothermal heat that could melt ice from below. This hidden heat may speed up glacier movement, weaken ice shelves, and influence future sea level rise. An entire volcanic landscape had remained hidden beneath Antarctica, and researchers are still uncovering its impact. Mud volcano. In Blora Regency, Indonesia, the ground suddenly erupted, launching hot mud, gas, and steam high into the air across an open field. Frightened residents ran for safety, while others prayed as dark plumes continued rising with each passing second. The eruption came from the Kisongo mud volcano, locally known as Bledug Kisongo, where reports said toxic sulfurous gases reached heights of up to 18 meters, sending several nearby residents to the hospital. Mud volcanoes formed when underground gas pressure forced mud, water, and gas violently to the surface. As the eruption subsided, villagers worked together to rescue a buffalo trapped in the fresh mud, turning an ordinary day into a sudden emergency. Oil River. Dark crude oil carved a deep channel through the desert sand, flowing like a river before spreading into a much larger spill across the dunes. Workers wearing safety vests gathered nearby to record the scene and assess the damage as the oil continued to spread. Unlike the other events on this list, this incident was not caused by nature. A pipeline or other infrastructure failure allowed crude oil to escape and follow the natural contours of the desert. Such spills can contaminate soil and nearby water sources, which is why emergency crews responded quickly. What looked like a strange black river was actually a powerful reminder of how damaging a single infrastructure failure can be. Gravity Hill. In a remote valley near Medina, Saudi Arabia, cars with their engines off appeared to roll uphill without anyone touching the accelerator. Local folklore linked this strange place, known as Wadi al-Jinn, to unseen spiritual beings believed to pull vehicles toward the valley's center. Scientists, however, offered a different explanation. They identified it as a gravity hill, where the surrounding landscape and horizon created an optical illusion that made a gentle downhill slope appear uphill. In reality, the vehicles were rolling downhill the entire time. Whether people believed the folklore or the science, Wadi al-Jinn remained one of the region's most fascinating roadside mysteries, attracting curious visitors from around the world. Penitentes. Near Laguna Verde in Chile's Atacama Desert, tall, blade-like ice formations rose from the ground, their sharp tips stretching across the landscape like frozen spears. Their surfaces were coated with dust carried by desert winds, while deep gaps separated each towering blade. These remarkable formations, called penitentes, developed at high altitudes through sublimation, a process where snow changed directly into water vapor without melting first. Over time, this slowly carved the snow into narrow, pointed shapes instead of a smooth surface. Because they require the perfect combination of altitude, dry air, and intense sunlight, penitentes exist in only a few places, making hikers feel as though they were walking through a forest of frozen glass. Stripped icebergs. Floating icebergs displayed striking bands of brown, gray, and deep blue, with each layer preserving part of the glacier's history. Some rose from the water in jagged peaks, while others formed smooth, wave-like shapes of brilliant turquoise. These colorful layers developed through compressed air bubbles, trapped mineral sediment, and changing ice densities over thousands of years. The vivid blue ice formed as intense pressure squeezed out nearly all the air bubbles, allowing only blue light to scatter back. Dark bands came from rock and sediment collected as glaciers scraped across the ground before breaking into the sea. Each iceberg became a frozen record of Earth's past. Death brine. Beneath the ocean's surface, a hollow tube of ice slowly stretched downward, freezing everything along its path until it reached the seabed. Known as a brinacle, or the finger of death, it formed when newly created sea ice expelled extremely cold, salty brine that was much denser than the surrounding water. As the brine sank, it instantly froze the less salty water around it, creating a hollow ice tube. When the brinacle reached the ocean floor, it spread outward, trapping slow-moving creatures like starfish and sea urchins in ice before they could escape. It remains one of nature's most unusual and deadly freezing phenomena. Crystal Cave. Deep beneath Nica, Mexico, explorers wearing full protective suits entered one of the most extraordinary caves on Earth. Equipped with helmets, lights, and breathing gear, they carefully climbed across enormous crystal beams and navigated between towering selenite formations that filled the chamber. This remarkable place is known as the Cave of Crystals, where giant crystals formed over hundreds of thousands of years as mineral-rich groundwater remained at consistently high temperatures. Those same conditions also made the cave dangerously hot and humid, allowing people to stay inside for only a short time without specialized equipment. The harsh environment that challenged every explorer was also the reason these breathtaking crystals grew to such incredible sizes, making the cave unlike anywhere else on Earth. Sailing stones. A Across the cracked surface of Racetrack Playa in Death Valley, large rocks rested at the ends of long trails carved into the dry lake bed, making it seem as though they had moved on their own. For decades, no one could explain how the stones traveled without leaving footprints or signs of interference. Researchers eventually discovered that on rare winter nights, thin sheets of ice formed beneath the rocks. As the ice melted the next day, light winds slowly pushed the stones across the slippery surface. The movement was incredibly slow, but it left clear tracks behind, finally solving one of Death Valley's oldest natural mysteries. Bleeding ice. A vivid crimson stream flowed down the icy face of Antarctica's Taylor Glacier. This phenomenon, known as Red Falls, had nothing to do with anything living. Deep beneath the glacier, an ancient reservoir of iron-rich brine remained trapped for millions of years without exposure to oxygen. When the brine finally reached the surface, the iron reacted with the air and oxidized, instantly producing its deep red color. What looked like a glacier bleeding was actually rust forming in real time, revealing one of Antarctica's oldest and most fascinating geological processes. Sea of Stars. As night settled over Vadhu Island in the Maldives, each wave that reached the shore burst into a brilliant electric blue glow, transforming the beach into a scene that seemed almost unreal. This breathtaking display was created by microscopic marine organisms called dinoflagellates, which produced light whenever they were disturbed by waves, footsteps, or splashing water. The glow appeared brightest on moonless nights, when the darkness allowed the blue light to stand out against the sea. Visitors walking along the shoreline left glowing footprints behind with every step, creating the famous Sea of Stars effect. What looked like pure magic was actually a natural defense mechanism that became one of Earth's most spectacular coastal phenomena. The wave. Just outside Page, Arizona, smooth sandstone formations twisted across the desert, creating the appearance of a giant frozen wave. Although it closely resembled the famous wave at Coyote Buttes, this lesser-known location required no permit and was easily reached by a short drive and hike. Over millions of years, ancient sand dunes hardened into Navajo sandstone before wind and water slowly sculpted the flowing patterns visible today. The result looked almost too perfect to be natural, yet nature created every curve. Visitors enjoyed stunning desert views without the crowds, expensive permits, or long waiting lists of its famous counterpart. Rainbow River. In Colombia's Serranía de la Macarena, a river transformed into brilliant shades of red, pink, yellow, green, and blue beneath its crystal-clear water, known as Caño Cristales, or the River of Seven Colors. This remarkable display came from an aquatic plant called Macarenia clavigera. During a short seasonal period, the perfect balance of sunlight and water levels caused the plant to reveal its vibrant colors. For the rest of the year, the river looked far more ordinary, making this breathtaking transformation one of the world's rarest and most short-lived natural wonders. Murmuration. As dusk settled over a quiet marsh, thousands of starlings moved across the sky as one enormous, shifting cloud. They twisted, turned, and changed direction with incredible precision before finally disappearing into the reeds for the night. This remarkable behavior, known as a murmuration, helped protect the flock from predators like falcons by making it difficult to single out one bird. It also allowed the birds to stay warm and exchange information about feeding areas, turning a breathtaking display into an important survival strategy. Sky Portal. Above a city skyline at night, a small streak of light suddenly expanded into a bright, swirling vortex surrounded by an electric blue glow and thick smoke-like clouds. It pulsed and spun for several seconds before shrinking and disappearing, leaving behind flashes that resembled lightning.
Oh.
Online, many viewers describe scenes like this as mysterious portals or supernatural events. However, similar displays have been associated with rocket launches, satellite fuel dumps, or high-altitude ice clouds reflecting artificial light. Since no confirmed explanation exists for this particular clip, its true cause remained uncertain. Whatever created it appeared, spun, vanished, and left witnesses wondering what they had actually seen. Eternal flame. Tucked directly behind a cascading waterfall in Chestnut Ridge Park, New York, a small flame burned steadily inside a hidden rock cavern, flickering just inches from the falling water. This is Eternal Flame Falls, fueled by natural gas seeping continuously through cracks in the ancient shale beneath it. That gas seep made this one of the only spots on Earth where fire and waterfall existed side by side. Visitors even hiked out to relight it themselves whenever wind or rain put it out. Satellite photo of Meg.
What's the new evidence now?
A satellite photo near Sao Paulo.
All right, this I want to see. Let's take a look at that.
This satellite image appeared online that left many people scratching their heads in disbelief. The photo showed a massive shark, far larger than any known shark species at the time, swimming through the ocean. As the video zoomed in on the shadow of the creature, it compared the size to that of a 40-foot yellow bus, making it even more striking. The sheer scale of the shark had many viewers convinced that the extinct species, the megalodon, might still be out there. The image gave birth to ongoing debates, with more and more people beginning to believe in the possibility of its existence.
You really think that this is the same animal that was spotted 2 months earlier on the other side of the ocean at Cape Verde?
Well, look, that's a 3,000-mile trip, and, you know, it sounds like a lot, but great whites have been tracked going 1,500 miles in a month. So for Megalodon, that would be nothing.
Meg caught on cam. A group of explorers were filming a documentary deep in the ocean, safely inside their cage, when they encountered something that left them completely stunned. Everything seemed routine at first, until a gigantic shark, with a wide jaw and sharp teeth, suddenly appeared, swimming right beside their cage. Its enormous size was undeniable, and there was no doubt in their minds it had to be a megalodon. Thankfully, the entire moment was captured on camera, providing clear evidence of their incredible encounter. Meg meets tourists. Some group of tourists on a cruise in the Atlantic Ocean got quite a surprise when a gigantic shark appeared beside the boat. People were amazed by the size of the shark. The huge creature swam slowly in circles near the surface as the tourists watched from the edge of the boat. Many believed the shark could be a megalodon, the giant predator from millions of years ago, while others thought it was a harmless basking shark. And if you ask me, I'd say it's definitely the Meg making its comeback. Monomoy Island Meg. No one could believe that a peaceful island like Monomoy could hide a gigantic shark. A diver was exploring the waters, using his camera to capture the underwater beauty. As he lowered the camera into the depths, he was surprised when a massive shark, possibly a baby megalodon, swam right up to him and bit the lens. The shark's huge jaw and sharp teeth were clearly visible. Thankfully, the camera was not damaged, and the diver was able to continue his exploration. However, the sight of such a large creature was enough to leave a lasting impression. Arctic frozen giant. On the 6th of February this year, a passenger on a boat cutting through the Arctic Ocean spotted something drifting among the ice that made everyone on deck stop what they were doing. Frozen solid and preserved in extraordinary detail was the body of a shark-like creature so large that the ice around it looked small by comparison. The broad head, the prehistoric build, the sheer scale of it floating past the hull drew immediate comparisons to the megalodon, the apex predator that ruled the oceans until roughly 3.6 million years ago and grew to an estimated 50 feet in length. The Arctic sub-zero waters are capable of preserving organic tissue for thousands of years, with a fidelity that defies decomposition entirely. Deep sea terror. More than half a mile beneath the ocean's surface, a scientific research submarine was conducting a routine deep-sea exploration when something emerged from the darkness that the crew had not scheduled into the dive. A blunt-nosed six-gill shark, one of the oldest shark species on Earth with a lineage stretching back over 200 million years, approached the vessel slowly and began circling it at close range. It nudged the hull several times, inspecting the unfamiliar object with a curiosity that the crew watched through the cameras in complete silence.
Oh, wow!
Port Blair, Crocolodon. Reports of something moving across the water off Port Blair in early May 2023 spread fast enough that authorities had to respond before the speculation got further ahead of the evidence. The footage showed a grey body with a rugged, spiky back crossing the surface with a slow, deliberate motion that sent locals reaching for sea monster as their first available category. Officials investigated and concluded it was a large saltwater crocodile, which resolved the identification without doing much to reduce the impact of the footage. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptiles on Earth, capable of exceeding 23 feet in length and 900 pounds in weight, with a bite force that researchers have measured as the most powerful of any animal currently documented. Kraken? This giant octopus-like creature was captured near the shore of Guatemala. It was clinging to an old stone pillar with its squirmy tentacles, creating a chilling environment. I seriously doubt its authenticity, but the fisherman said he reeled in a monstrous creature, and apparently the netizens agree with that. Some people on the internet even started claiming that it was not a squid or an octopus, but actually a mythical beast kraken. Real kraken. A beachgoer witnessed a sight that made him think twice. In the water far from shore, two long tentacles suddenly appeared, then more followed. You might be thinking of some octopus, but no, it wasn't one. It was much larger, and there is only one monster that large and creepy. The kraken. Often described as a sea monster, the kraken is said to have enormous tentacles capable of dragging entire ships into the ocean's depths. 1,000-pounder. Not far from Hampton Beach in 2022, Michelle Banswich Chikale spent 2.5 hours alone on the water doing something that most experienced offshore anglers never manage across an entire career. The giant Atlantic bluefin tuna on her line ran hard and gave nothing back willingly for every minute of that fight before she finally brought it alongside and confirmed a weight of nearly 1,000 pounds. Atlantic bluefin are among the most tightly regulated and commercially valuable fish on Earth, with a single specimen selling at Tokyo's Toyosu market for over $3 million in 2020. Brazilian Meg. In November 2012, a video surfaced online showing something truly astonishing from the Brazilian coastline. It showed a massive shark gliding right beside a boat, quickly grabbing the attention of people across the internet, making everyone amazed by the size of the creature, as it appeared far larger than any known shark species. Many were convinced that this could only be one thing: the legendary megalodon, a prehistoric giant thought to be extinct. Its overwhelming size and movement of the shark left little doubt in the minds of many that they were witnessing the return of this ancient predator. Cape Cod Meg.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Who says trips to the ocean and seas are always peaceful? Sometimes, you might see animals you never expected. That's exactly what happened to a man boating in Cape Cod when he spotted a massive shark near the surface by his boat. Excited, he quickly took out his camera and recorded the moment. What's even strange is that some people called it a baby megalodon. As people talked about what it might be, the mystery of what else was hiding in the ocean kept growing.
He could tip the boat over. Look at him!
Meg under boat. In April 2016, a man from Canada uploaded a video online that captured an incredible sight. The video showed a giant shark swimming right under his boat. The man confidently claimed that it was a real megalodon, pointing to its enormous size as proof. Even though the claim was quite strong, people still argued that it was just a basking shark, which is known to be large but harmless. However, others were convinced that what they were seeing was indeed a real megalodon. The video became a topic of discussion, with many sharing their thoughts and theories about what the creature could be. Megalodon in Mexico. This video was posted on the internet that showed a shark swimming around the base of an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico at a depth of 8,717 feet. The footage captured the shark moving smoothly through the water as it explores its surroundings. People became convinced that they were seeing the famous megalodon, a shark thought to have been extinct for millions of years. The size of the shark and its presence in such deep water sparked curiosity and discussion, creating more evidence of the existence of the Meg in these times. Baby megalodon. Upon hearing the rumors about a baby megalodon, a team of researchers decided to go deep into the ocean to investigate if the claims were true. They brought a sturdy cage, ready to observe whatever might be lurking in the depths. What they encountered left them shocked. A massive shark with sharp teeth and a wide jaw, much larger than the average great white. The The size alone made them question whether the rumors might actually hold some truth. The giant shark circled their cage for a while before it finally vanished back into the dark waters from where it had come.
It's a big one, eh? 15 foot and easy.
Massive fish. A group of young anglers off the Cape of Good Hope on the 8th of November 2023 were focused on reeling in what felt like a decent catch when the water beneath them produced something considerably larger than what was on the line. An enormous great white shark came up from the depths and tore the bait clean off without slowing down. The kind of effortless strike that reminds anyone watching exactly where they sit in the ocean's hierarchy. What followed was stranger than the strike itself. Instead of swimming away upright, the shark rolled and glided off completely inverted, moving through the water on its back before disappearing beneath the surface. Feeding a monster. In March 2023, a group of scuba divers found themselves in the water at the same moment a sperm whale was finishing a meal that most marine biologists spend entire careers hoping to document. The remains of a giant squid were visible as the whale fed, offering a glimpse into one of the ocean's most violent and least witnessed relationships. Sperm whales dive to depths exceeding 7,000 feet in pursuit of giant squid, and the hunts that happen down there leave evidence on the whales themselves. Deep circular scars covering the bodies of nearly every adult sperm whale ever examined are left by the hooks lining a giant squid's tentacles during the struggle before the whale wins. Scientists have never filmed the actual hunt at depth. Shocking capture.
Most incredible things about nature is to expect the unexpected. And while Josh was flying the drone, you know what he saw? He saw a giant hammerhead chasing a blacktip.
A day of offshore fishing produced something none of the crew had factored into their plans. When an enormous hammerhead shark appeared alongside the boat shortly after they had hooked a smaller blacktip, the hammerhead had clearly registered the disturbance in the water and arrived to investigate with the unhurried confidence of something that considered itself the most significant presence in that stretch of ocean. Working carefully, the crew brought it alongside the vessel long enough to measure it at 14 feet and 7 inches, placing it among the largest hammerheads on record for an accidental encounter of that kind.
Oh my gosh! Ah, the giant! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Look how big he is!
Toyama Bay monster. On the 24th of December, the waters of Toyama Bay in Japan produced a visitor from a depth most living things never return from. A giant squid surfaced alive and visible, the first confirmed sighting of the season in a bay that has become one of the few places on Earth where these animals have been repeatedly observed near the surface. Giant squid spend virtually their entire existence in the deep ocean between 600 and 3,000 feet down, in water so dark and so cold that they were considered mythological by mainstream science, until the first confirmed photograph of a living specimen was taken in 2004. Abandoned canal. The man filming in the abandoned canal was not looking for anything in particular when the water ahead of him started doing something that made him keep the camera running. Two mossy green humps broke the surface slowly and drifted downstream in complete silence, their texture and shape giving nothing away about what was producing them or how deep whatever was beneath them actually went. The footage divided viewers immediately and has stayed divided. Floating debris accounts for the shape but not the deliberate drift against the current. A submerged animal accounts for the movement but raises its own questions about what species produces two humps of that size in an abandoned urban waterway. Devilish fish. Rough weather along the Philippine coast pushed something up from the deep onto Alona Beach on the 7th of March 2020 that the beachgoers who found it had no immediate framework for. The carcass that came ashore had a head disproportionately large for its body, a gaping mouth lined with long needle-like teeth, and eyes that sat in its skull in a way that suggested a life spent in total darkness rather than coastal shallows. Miami bluefin. The fisherman who set out off Miami on the 26th of April 2023 was expecting a reasonable day on the water. What took nearly an hour to bring to the surface had other ideas. An enormous tuna fought him the entire way, running hard and refusing to give ground until it had exhausted every option available to it. Atlantic bluefin tuna are among the most physically powerful fish in any ocean, capable of reaching 10 feet in length and over 1,000 pounds, with a swimming speed that exceeds 40 miles per hour during a run. Unexpected surfacing. The tourists on the fishing charter had been watching their lines and scanning the water the way people do when they are expecting something to happen on their own terms. Nothing about what came next was on their terms. A massive shark rose from below without any invitation, no bait, no commotion, no signal from the surface that anything down there had been paying attention. It simply appeared, which is the detail that stays with people who watch the footage. Sharks have electroreceptors called ampullae of Lorenzini embedded across their snouts that detect the electrical fields generated by the heartbeats and muscle movements of other animals in the water around them.
Look at that! Oh my god, face out of the water again! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Mariana Trench creature.
Most marine mammals in the ocean are very large, but when I take a closer look, I see certain features that clearly say this is not a whale. There are gills on the sides, which means that this is some type of fish. And then as I look closer at the pectoral fins, it reminds me of a shark.
On the 27th of January 2016, a Japanese marine biology remotely operated vehicle was conducting a survey roughly 1 mile below the surface near the Mariana Trench, when something moved through the camera frame that stopped the research team cold. The Mariana Trench is the deepest point on Earth, reaching nearly 36,000 feet at its lowest, and the water column above it hosts documented species that already strain the imagination. Frilled sharks unchanged since the Cretaceous period, dragonfish producing their own bioluminescent light in total darkness, barrel-eye fish with transparent heads and rotating eyes. What the ROV camera captured that day belonged to none of those categories. Okinawa dragonfish. A fisherman off the coast of Okinawa in 2023 pulled something from the water that he had not encountered before and was still processing what he was looking at when it began producing light. The deep-sea dragonfish lying in front of him started emitting bright flashes across its body in a display that looked less like biology and more like something electrical misfiring in the dark. Bioluminescence in deep-sea species is documented and understood as a hunting and communication mechanism, produced by light-emitting organs called photophores that run along the body in species-specific patterns. Dragonfish carry photophores along their entire length and additionally produce a red bioluminescent light from organs beneath their eyes. A unique adaptation because most deep-sea creatures cannot perceive red wavelengths, making the dragonfish effectively invisible while it uses that light to hunt in the dark. Lillooet white demon.
I don't know if a guy could pull one in like this by himself.
Captain Speed floating with him.
Father's Day 2022 gave the crew of River Monster Adventures out of Lillooet, British Columbia, something considerably more significant than a good day on the water. On the 23rd of June, they landed a white sturgeon measuring 10 feet in length and weighing nearly 700 pounds, a catch that drew attention well beyond the fishing community. White sturgeon are one of the oldest vertebrate species on Earth. Their body plan essentially unchanged since the Triassic period over 200 million years ago, making them contemporaries of the earliest dinosaurs rather than anything that evolved alongside modern fish. The individual they pulled from that British Columbia River was estimated to be over 100 years old based on its size.
Sturgeon right here.
Yeah. Comes fishing once and catches the biggest fish in the river.
Molokai 6-gill.
It was much bigger than the one we saw first.
Oh yeah. Whoa. Whoa.
At 3,300 feet below the surface off the northeast coast of Molokai, Hawaii, a remotely operated vehicle was moving through complete darkness when its cameras picked up something that the research team had not expected to document that clearly. A blunt-nosed 6-gill shark moving steadily through the black water, its size confirmed using 2 red laser reference points spaced precisely 6 inches apart on the camera housing. The measurement came back at approximately 18 feet, placing it among the largest 6-gill specimens ever recorded on film. 6-gill sharks are considered living fossils, their 6-gill slits marking them as a relic of an ancient shark lineage that the 5-gilled sharks dominating modern oceans evolved away from hundreds of millions of years ago.
Sank us.
Oh, crap! Oh my God! It's coming right at the ROF.
Boston record.
So the first thing I noticed about this thing is its mouth. I don't know if I got it on camera or not, but its mouth is different than any other tuna that I've seen, the smaller ones.
Captain Scott Campbell and his crew were out of Boston on the 25th of September, 2024, operating under commercial regulations that set the minimum legal size for giant bluefin tuna at 73 inches, a bar that already filters out most of what the Atlantic produces on any given day. What came up on their lines that morning cleared that bar by a considerable distance. Nearly 10 feet of fish weighing over 800 pounds, a new boat record by a margin significant enough that the crew understood immediately what they had on their hands before it was even fully alongside the vessel.
I'm a science geek, right? Like I majored in biology. That animal, hundreds of pounds, swims across the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean, comes back here, does it year after year after year, finds breeding females or males or whatever it may be. They just know where to go at all times. It's just, it honestly amazes you how incredible nature is.
20 foot big.
It really is the biggest shark I've ever seen in my entire life. It is gargantuan.
The footage filmed on the 7th of July 2015 did not require much explanation from the people sharing it because the scale of what the camera was pointed at made the situation self-evident. A female great white shark exceeding 20 feet in length, confirmed by marine researchers who reviewed the footage and cross-referenced it against known size markers in the frame. Female great whites grow larger than males as the species ages, and individuals reaching that length are extraordinarily rare, representing decades of growth in an apex predator that matures slowly and reproduces infrequently. The largest great white ever formally measured came in at 23 feet, recorded off the coast of Cuba in 1945.
I got a good feeling about this. I think she's coming up. She's coming up. Holy it's massive. Whoa. Coming for a lark.
Massive swordfish. The crew exploring the Mediterranean had nothing on sonar and nothing visible on the surface before it appeared alongside the vessel, moving with a speed and direction that made its intent immediately clear. A massive swordfish in active pursuit, chasing something through the water ahead of it with the full commitment of an animal that has never needed to reconsider its position in the food chain. Swordfish are among the fastest predators in any ocean, capable of reaching 60 miles per hour and using their bill to slash through schools of fish before circling back to collect what the impact has stunned. The bill itself can exceed 5 feet in length and has been documented penetrating the hulls of wooden vessels and the outer casing of submarine cables. Galveston shark.
Talk about a catch of a lifetime for one Texas city fisherman when he reeled in a very rare 1,000-pound shark 40 miles off the coast of Galveston. Janelle Bludica spoke with him about the family tradition of catching sharks.
Avery Fuller and his brothers were competing in a shark fishing tournament off Galveston, Texas on the 11th of July 2021, when the tournament stopped being a competition and became something else entirely. What came up on Fuller's line was a tiger shark measuring 12 feet in length and weighing exactly 1,004 pounds, a catch that separated itself from everything else entered that day before it was even fully out of the water. Tiger sharks are the second most dangerous shark species after great whites in terms of documented encounters.
Texas Parks and Wildlife says it is legal to catch and keep a tiger shark, but it has to be a minimum of 64 inches. Now, this shark was more than twice that size at 12 foot 6 inches.
Humongous turtle. The footage has been circulating long enough that most people who follow ocean content have seen it at least once, and the debate it produces has not settled into any consensus. Just beneath the surface, an enormous shape moves with the unhurried patience of something that has been doing this for longer than most things alive have existed. The shell alone carries a scale that places it outside any sea turtle species currently in the formal record. Leatherback sea turtles, the largest living species, reach up to 7 feet in length and over 2,000 pounds, with lifespans estimated between 45 and 100 years. What moves through the water in this footage appears to exist on a different scale, entirely from anything those numbers describe. Amazonian beast.
Look at this!
arapaima on a fly. This thing, it's actually, I was going to say, it's built like a missile. This is a tired fish, believe it or not. Two of us can hardly restrain it.
Jeremy Wade has pulled things from rivers that most people spend their careers reading about rather than encountering, and the arapaima he found in the Amazon still carried its own distinct weight, even for him. One of the largest freshwater fish on Earth, capable of exceeding 10 feet in length and 400 pounds, the arapaima is an air breather that rises to the surface every few minutes, in a way no other fish of its size does. A biological trait that has kept it at the center of indigenous South American mythology for centuries. Communities across the Amazon basin have long credited the arapaima as the origin of regional mermaid legends.
Doesn't it look like a missile? Long, streamlined body. I'm thinking about 3 times the size of the one that hit me. Sent me flying, left me in pain for over a month. This thing came flying at you.
Australian record tuna.
A 17-year-old Melbourne fisherman has reeled in the longest fish at liberty in Australian history. The giant 30-year-old 135-kilogram bluefin tuna was caught off Gunnamatta on the Mornington Peninsula last week.
In September 2022, a fisherman from Melbourne named Ryan Gazzola went out off the Mornington Peninsula and came back with something that officials later confirmed as the longest fish ever caught at liberty in Australian recorded history. A southern bluefin tuna weighing approximately 298 pounds and estimated at around 30 years old, meaning it had been moving through Australian waters for over a decade before Gazzola was born. Southern bluefin tuna are one of the most critically endangered large fish species in the southern hemisphere. Their population reduced to an estimated fraction of its historical size by decades of commercial overfishing before international catch quotas were introduced.
I'm pretty good now. I'm very stoked about it and very happy. So, yeah, it's still unbelievable. Still can't believe it.
Australian beach ray.
Be careful, dude. Be careful, bro. Oh, careful. Yeah. It's stuck under his back fin, so we just got to get it out the front. No, we got it. We got it. He got it out from under that. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Oh my, look at him. That's a monster. Oh, wow.
The Blacktip team were on an Australian beach on the 12th of April 2025 when they guided something through the surf that most people fishing that coastline would never encounter across an entire lifetime of trying. One of the largest stingrays ever recorded from an Australian beach came in through the shallows, its wingspan carrying a scale that required the team to manage the situation carefully from the moment it became clear what they had. Stingrays carry a venomous barb on their tail, capable of delivering a wound serious enough to be fatal.
Paul, I don't think this can fit in your truck, dude. It's that big. Holy moly, this thing's massive. And now we're gonna let it go. You ready? Here we go.
Kayak grouper.
Oh my God!
On the 28th of May, 2015, Jonathan Black, owner of the Crazy Lure Bait and Tackle shop in Cape Coral, Florida, accomplished something that raises an immediate practical question before anything else. He reeled in a grouper weighing over 500 pounds from a kayak. The fish itself would have been a remarkable catch from a fully equipped offshore vessel with a fighting chair and a crew. From a kayak, the achievement enters a category that most experienced offshore anglers would decline to attempt, even if the opportunity presented itself. Goliath grouper are a federally protected species in Florida waters due to their exceptionally slow growth rate and low reproductive frequency. Planktoto this. A remotely operated vehicle descending through the midwater zone captured something in its camera frame that most marine biologists have spent entire careers studying in literature without ever seeing in the water. The Planktoto drifted into the light from the surrounding darkness, its body nearly transparent, oversized eyes catching the ROV's beam in the black of the deep ocean. It lives hundreds to thousands of feet below the surface, in a zone where no sunlight penetrates, and pressure alone makes most biological structures impossible to maintain at the surface. Its tentacles and body are so delicate that any physical capture attempt destroys the specimen before it can be properly examined, which is why almost everything science knows about it comes from the rare footage that ROVs have managed to collect. Harbor bull.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Yeah, buddy! Yeah, the boys, we're on! He's gone! Go over!
Fishermen working Sydney Harbour on the 10th of January 2023 pulled something from the water that spread across Australian media before the day was out. The bull shark they landed was large enough by any measure to generate attention on its own, but the location added a dimension that size alone could not. Sydney Harbour is one of the most recognizable urban waterways on Earth, crossed daily by ferries, kayakers, and swimmers who operate on the reasonable assumption that the harbour is a transportation route rather than a hunting ground. Bull sharks disrupt that assumption more effectively than any other species because they are the only large sharks capable of surviving indefinitely in both saltwater and freshwater, using the salinity regulation in their kidneys to move between ocean, harbour, and river systems without any physiological stress.
Perfect.
Amazon night catch. On the Amazon River near Orellana, Peru, a crew working a night expedition hauled something to the surface that the darkness made difficult to process, and the daylight would not have made much easier. The animal was enormous, its mouth filled with oversized teeth, arranged in a configuration that suggested something built for prey considerably larger than what most of that river's documented species pursue. They spent hours managing it before deciding the risk of keeping it aboard outweighed whatever identification it might have produced and released it back into the river after one crew member got a photograph. A local biologist who examined the image suggested a rarely seen species as the most likely candidate without committing to a formal identification. Java Sea longline. Between the islands of Java and Sumatra, veteran fisherman Sawa and his sons still hunt sharks the way their community has for centuries, lowering a 500-meter long line fitted with around 100 baited hooks to depths of nearly 500 feet after dark, when sharks become active in the water column below. No sonar, no modern detection equipment, just the accumulated knowledge of generations and the patience to wait in the dark above a line that long. What came up on this particular set was a tiger shark measuring nearly 16 feet, too large to bring aboard in any conventional sense. They secured it alongside the boat and towed it slowly back to shore. Feeding giants.
That's a big shark.
In November 2017, a deep-sea expedition, filming at nearly 2,500 feet below the surface, came across something that marine researchers consider one of the rarest observable events in the ocean. Several large blunt-nosed six-gill sharks were gathered around the carcass of a deceased sperm whale on the seafloor, feeding on a scale that the research submarine's cameras had not been positioned to expect. As the vessel moved in to document the event, the six gills turned their attention to it, bumping and nudging the hull repeatedly in a way that the crew experienced from inside as a series of impacts against the outer casing. A whale fall, the term researchers use for a whale carcass that has reached the seafloor, creates one of the most significant ecological events in deep ocean biology, sustaining entire communities of organisms across a decomposition process that can last over 100 years. Deep Atlantic fish. Marine researchers deploying an underwater camera off the coast of Brazil to monitor sea turtle activity were not expecting the equipment to produce anything beyond the intended survey data when something drifted into frame that redirected the entire expedition. Over 6 feet in length and weighing more than 80 pounds, the animal that appeared on the monitor had no scales, a soft body packed with thick fatty tissue, tiny teeth, and a smooth exterior that matched nothing in the immediate reference material available to the team on the water. The combination of those features pointed toward a deep Atlantic species so rarely encountered near the surface that most of the researchers present had only encountered anything comparable in preserved specimens under laboratory conditions. Mustang eel.
Look what we got today that washed up. It's an American eel.
Beachgoers on Mustang Island, Texas, came across a long, snake-like body on the sand that drew a crowd before anyone had a confident identification for it. The 4-foot specimen was eventually examined by a biologist from the University of Texas Marine Science Institute, who confirmed it as an American eel, a species whose presence on that stretch of Texas coastline was unusual enough to warrant the removal of the carcass for further study. American eels undertake one of the most remarkable migrations in the animal kingdom, spawning exclusively in the Sargasso Sea in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. before their larvae drift on ocean currents for up to a year to reach the freshwater rivers and lakes of North America, where they spend the majority of their adult lives before returning to the Sargasso Sea to reproduce and pass away.
This right here is like larger than what you would normally see. This is like basically as big as they get.